Today, we are presenting on the harp seal, with a twist in our topic. Though we will be talking about the harp seal, we will be focused on how they have been impacted by the thinning of the Arctic sea ice, a keystone factor of the polar environment that many harp seals and other Arctic animals find crucial to their survival. Let's look at an overview of our topic. To break this presentation down, we will first be discussing the Arctic sea ice, including what it is and why it's ecologically important. Then we will talk about the harp seal. This includes behaviors, the relationship to the Arctic ice, and the potential danger they face. And finally, we will talk about the solution and what we can do as individuals to preserve the harp seal through the preservation of the Arctic sea ice. Now that we have an overview of this presentation, let's move on to discussing the Arctic sea ice with Andrea.
So, what is the Arctic ice cover, really? According to the experts of the National Snow and Ice Data Center, the Arctic ice cover is made up of ocean water that freezes and then eventually melts. During spring and summer, the ice starts to melt, decreasing it to only 50% of it being frozen. But once fall starts, it starts freezing and continues throughout the entire winter. Winter is coming! With our new background on our Arctic ice Daniela will talk more about its ecological importance and effect on biodiversity.
Speaking on the ecological importance, Arctic ice acts as a tarp to keep the ocean cool and mitigate global climate by reflecting sunlight. 80% of sunlight that hits the ice is reflected back. It is very necessary for its marine inhabitants. As several Arctic animals have adaptations suited for land, the Arctic sea ice is a must-have in their world. For instance, it is very needed to fulfill the reproductive behaviors of Arctic mammals, who rely on Arctic ice to serve as a mating and nesting ground. These include the adorable harp seals. Heavily impacted by global warming, and with the exponential increase of greenhouse gas emissions, Arctic ice cover is decreasing drastically. This will lead to detrimental consequences for the Arctic region marine inhabitants. Now, we will discuss how the Arctic sea ice affects the surrounding biodiversity. Like most ocean ecosystems, the food chain in the Arctic depends on algae, which inhabit sea ice. This algae, mostly found on the underside of the sea ice, is eaten by zooplankton, which is a primary food source for many animals in that region, including multiple fish species. Fish are a primary food source for secondary and tertiary consumers, such as seals and polar bears. To ensure these food sources are abundant, sea ice is necessary. Without sea ice, the whole food chain would become disrupted, limiting the reproduction of several consumers and resulting in the decline of biodiversity. The birth of our adorable harp seals would be impossible. Now, let's learn more about harp seals with Alan.
Living in the Arctic Ocean and swimming up to depths of 400 meters, the harp seal is the most populated species of seals. This highly migratory species travels up to 3,000 miles every year. About 6 to 7 weeks after birth, pups lose their fluffy white coats of fur, developing a silver and harp-shaped spot, giving them its signature name. Harp seals need the Arctic ice to reproduce. On an annual basis, harp seals come from all over their ranges of northern and mid-Atlantic Ocean to migrate to the Sea of Ice of Newfoundland, the Greenland Sea, and the White Sea. Due to the drastic decline of the ice cover, however, pup seals are in increased danger. Now let's make the connection between harp seals and the ice. According to the National Ocean and Atmospheric Administration, they explain the current danger that harp seals face. This is due to the lessening of the Arctic ice covers. Harp seals rely on ice sheets to reproduce. It is where they mate with one another and where their young lives until they are ready to enter the ocean. In the early childhood, harp seal pups are vulnerable to marine predators. Without the protection of the Arctic ice cover to develop on, they are not expected to have a long lifespan. The ice keeps them safe at the early development stage.
Freezing cold water, but right now we're looking for what is arguably the cutest animal on the planet. And I can hear it. This beautiful little animal, hello, is a harp seal pup. And it was born here on the ice about 4 or 5 days ago, judging by its size. And it's totally helpless without mum right now.
The main problem we have been focusing on throughout this presentation is in the melting of the Arctic ice, which has inhibited reproduction and thus the long-term survival of harp seals. This will lead to a lessening of their overall population as well as of Arctic biodiversity. Despite this, harp seals also face numerous other threats, including hunting, entanglement from fishing, chemical contaminants, and oil spills. Looking at possible ways in which we can mitigate the endangerment of harp seals and other marine life, we have come up with a few solutions. One is to lessen our carbon footprints. By decreasing carbon emissions, we will ensure less greenhouse gases are in our atmosphere. In the long term, this will slow down global warming and the melting of Arctic ice, which, as we've brought up before, are crucial to our Arctic friends. The second solution is to write to your representative. By writing to our federal representatives and being informed about legislation that advances the fight against climate change and the preservation of our marine environments, we can advocate to promote the protection of our marine friends. Such legislation includes the Marine Mammal Protection Act. The third solution is through marine conservation organizations. By donating, volunteering, or being educated by one of these conservation organizations, you can contribute to the work that protects and preserves marine life and their ecosystems. As we come to a close, let's look over what we have learned today. First, we talked about the ecological role of Arctic sea ice and how its trending decline has led to habitat loss and heating ocean temperatures, both of which are detrimental to Arctic life. Then, we connected the loss of Arctic ice to its effect on the harp seal. This environmental loss can lead to the decreased reproductive capability of harp seals and a lesser life expectancy of their young. Finally, we talked about how we can all take the next steps to preserve life for harp seals and other Arctic friends. To review, these solutions include lessening our carbon footprints, speaking to legislators, education on marine life, and supporting our local conservation organizations. Finally, we thank you for taking the time to learn about the Arctic's cutest creatures, the harp seal, and we hope you will choose to take steps to help save our precious Arctic friends.